what makes a powerful person, right? And tapping into that. Now, there's lots of things happening around us today. Not getting into like crazy politics or anything like that, but that's one of the biggest things that people are constantly after is power, right? Whether it's through money or whether it's through manipulating people to do what they want or trying to gain more of that authoritative role or something like that. It's about power, right? Now, we'll do a little mental exercise. I want you all to just kind of think about a few things that you saw when you were coming into the building. And you at home, maybe something you saw when you woke up this morning, right? So you got a couple things. You probably saw some cars in the parking lot. You saw the doors. You might have saw somebody else walking in or whatever. So now let me tell you what you didn't see with your physical eyeballs, right? What you didn't see was the 1,000-foot tall guardian angels standing around this building, making sure that we can come together today and that nobody is going to attack us or disrupt us or hurt us while we're coming here to gather together and to praise him, right? You didn't see those with your physical eyes, but they're there and they're powerful, right? As we look around in the room, we see some walls, we see some chairs, we see the menorahs, and we see some instrumentation and things like that. We saw people singing. But what we didn't see with our physical eyes was we didn't see the Spirit of God going around. We didn't see the Ruach HaKodesh going around and whispering into people's ears. Did anybody see it standing up there next to Pastor Kenny while he was speaking? No, I didn't physically see it. But if you saw it with your spiritual eyes, it was right there telling Pastor Kenny to say some things. Maybe not for you, but if for somebody out there that needed to hear that. And that's how he works. And that's power. Right? I don't know of anybody else. Now, I know some people in the crazy world out here have tried a few things to, see with their mind and stuff across the world and try to like tap into these psychic powers, right? But they really have nothing. It's not of Abba. It's not how he created us. He didn't create us to spiritually reach out and see things that are in the spirit realm. That's demonic in nature, right? What he did create us for is to glorify him and to edify him and to be lights out there to the other parts of his creation that are wandering around in the darkness, right? So that's kind of what we're getting after there is what do we see as far as powerful people? Right, and we're going to talk about a couple of them. Some of them are pretty familiar to you, but hopefully I'll help you see something in a different light or a different way today. All right, so we know that Jehovah has created everything in the known universe. Does anybody dispute that? Nope. Right? So I'll tell you a funny joke I once heard. I don't know if Pastor Jeff tells a lot of jokes, but this one I think is kind of funny but kind of relevant. So a group of scientists are all standing around, and they get together, and they're like, look at us, we're super smart. We figured this out. We cracked the code. God, we can create now, right? And God said, oh, all right, cool. I'll watch. I'll stand by. And so they get together, and they're talking amongst themselves, and then one of them turns around and he goes, okay. He rolls his sleeves up and he says, first we're going to take a little bit of dirt. And then God says, whoa, 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 whoa. You got to get your own dirt. That's my dirt. I made it. Right? So that's a funny joke I like to tell. But we know that God created everything in the known universe. Everything from the smallest particle, like I don't even know how far they've gone down today. The last time I checked, we had protons, electrons, neutrons, and then there's some things that those are made of. And we haven't even gotten that far yet. We don't even know. We can't see them. We can just theorize about it. But we know it's down real small, right? And we know that he's made even some of the most largest and complicated things like stars and gas giants and stuff that's out there that's light years away and that is probably already exploded, and we just haven't even seen it yet because it's taken that long for the light to get here, right? We know that he created giant planets out there because we can see them with our telescopes. For the most part, I believe they're all round. And he did this with only his words. He spoke it all into existence. He said, "Let there be," and then it was, right? That's power. That is true power, okay? We know that whatever is in the vessel is what comes out. We've heard Pastor Jeff talk about that before, that whatever you put into your heart is what comes out, right? And so if you feel yourself full of frustration and stress and anger and anxiety and things like that, that's what comes out. And sometimes it comes out and you can't even control it. It starts as a little trickle. Somebody, "Hey, how's your day going?" And you go like, "Well, it's been better." And then before you know it, "Oh my God," and you don't even know what's going on, and you're having an emotional breakdown, right? Then there's people that, for the most part, fill their lives up, and they fill their hearts up and their vessels up with love and care and kindness. And you see those people all the time. Some of them are around us in here. They're the people that you will see go out to the far reaches of the earth and try and take stuff to people who need it, right? The little poor kids running out and don't have enough food and clothing and stuff like that. And that means something because it's what you put inside you, and it's what starts to come out, right? And you don't even know how that affects people until you actually do it yourself. You can see it on TV, and you can hear it in podcasts and things like that, and you can see all these great stuff, but it doesn't affect you until you see it, right? And then you do it, and it's kind of a powerful thing, right? Some of the folks that I have seen and known, like, never gone on a mission trip to somewhere or something like that, and they come back and they're like, "Well, it's powerful." What does that word mean, powerful, right? Did it affect change in your life, in your mindset, the way you think about things, the way you conduct yourself, right? I know just a little short story. If you know me, you know I've been deployed a couple times to some really dry and hot places. And one of the things that tugged on me, and this is just the way God made me, was there's a bunch of little kids out in these outskirts, where they just make houses out of mud. That's all they had. And so these little kids are running around, naked, and they didn't got nothing, but they don't know any better, right? And so here I come, one of the Westerners, and I'm like, "Man, somebody needs to put some pants on that kid." And so I would take, because I had more than enough, praise Father, but I had more than enough T-shirts. For some reason, the Army thought I needed more T-shirts, and so they kept giving me T-shirts, and those brown T-shirts. And so I would roll them up, and then I would always have a cargo pocket full of Tootsie Rolls with me, because you could get anything over there out of them kids for some Tootsie Rolls. And so I would go out, and I would see these kids, and I would give them a rolled-up T-shirt, because I only had one size, large, sorry. But I would give them these T-shirts, and I'd give them a handful of Tootsie Rolls, because I just felt like somebody needs to give them something and show them, that the world is not just mud huts and, chasing goats around with a stick and stuff. But, that's just kind of what God put on my heart. And that had a powerful effect. It had a powerful effect because they would bring us things. Because over there, I gave them a T-shirt that I was not ever planning on wearing, and I gave them some Tootsie Rolls just because, it was kind of cool, and they seem to last a little bit longer in the heat. But just that act was powerful enough to change the way that those, that family or those kids or whatever, how they thought about us. It was powerful because it affected change in someone, right? And that's something that you can't measure, right? And so that's what we're gonna kind of get into here, is tapping into that power, right? And I know on the screen it says powerful people, and I wrote on my lesson plan, it says tap into the power of the Creator, right? Now I'm not talking about like we're going to channel things and do all kinds of weird stuff like that. What I'm talking about is having that relationship with Him, right? I'm not saying that I'm going to go out and shoot lightning bolts out of my fingers. That would be weird. And most of you might not be my friends anymore, but having that relationship with Him, because when you do, He will fill you. because we can't really fill ourselves. Anybody ever seen, I know I'll probably date myself, the old Tupperware pitchers with the little push button lids on them, right? Anybody remember those? Anybody ever see one filling itself? Me neither. Can the vessel fill itself? It cannot, right? So we have to have that relationship with the Creator so that He can fill us, right? And put what needs to be in us, right? Okay, so that was kind of my intro, and I know I got my pretty time watcher over here, because I'll talk forever, and then everybody will just be asleep, and I'll just be talking to people on the internet. But I pushed it too soon. There it goes. Okay, so in Psalms 18:3, it says, Adonai is my rock, my fortress, my deliverer, my Yah, my rock in whom I find shelter, my shield, the power that saves me, and He is my stronghold, right? All that is what He is to us. None of that said, I am my rock, I am my shelter, I. It didn't say that, right? So when we think about how we speak, we have to change that just a little bit. We have to stop saying I, and we have to start saying Abba, or Him, or our Creator, right? In our daily dose, at the bottom it says, because He knows my name. You gotta know His name. Like I said when I was speaking last time, you can't just be out in the front yard yelling, dude, save me. Doesn't work that way, right? When you have a relationship with Him, you know His name, right? So when we define power in our feeble human words is defined as the ability to act or produce an effect, legal or official authority, capacity or right, physical might, and a source or means of supplying energy, right? Now, that's out of the dictionary, right? That's how man kind of defines power, right? But our Creator doesn't really define power. He displays power, and we're going to talk about that, all right? So where does our earthly power come from, right? Like power from the government, or that the government appears to have, right? They only have that, and it's not true power, but they only have that because they can inflict some type of judicial action upon you, or they can tax you, or they can arrest you and confine you, or whatever the case is, right? But is that true power? No, it is not true power. And the only reason I say that is because it is not given by the Creator. I know a lot of people have talked about constitutional rights and constitutional freedoms and so on and so forth, right? And when you look into it, the ideal behind that was not that the government gave us freedom, it was that we were born with it, right? And a lot of people have that hard conversation with other folks who say, well, the government gives you your freedom. No, they don't. We were born free. Unless I missed a whole chapter or maybe more in Genesis, it didn't say, and God created Adam, and then He made the government to rule over Adam. It didn't say that. It said He created him, and then He breathed life into him. He breathed life into him. He filled him with the breath of the living God. And that's where Adam's power came from, right? That's where his freedom came from, okay? Now, if you look at the government, it changes, right? We used to have prayer in schools, and we used to teach Bible classes in schools and things like that. And without getting into like nitty gritty of who was right, the right religion or whatever to have in school, what we miss is the concept of a foundation where we got our principles and our values. And then someone disagreed with that, and then a bunch of people were like, yeah, that sounds like a great idea, because the devil was influencing them, and we took that platform out. And now we left a vacuum in there, and when I say we, I mean all of those of us, even before my time, who could have spoken up and could have stopped it, right? But we don't know That's probably God's plan, because I'm pretty sure somewhere in here there's some words that say that nothing happens that he didn't already know. We're going to talk about that paradox here in a second. But we got rid of that platform where we get our values and morals, and we left a vacuum. And in that vacuum, people started defining their own values and morals under their own power, right? And so if I'm bigger and stronger than you, I can force you to agree with me. Now, do you agree with me in here? Probably not, but you agree with me right here because I'll probably punch you or something right then, you know. And so that's kind of that fake power, and that's where it starts to come from, is it's just an illusion of power. And who is the father of illusions or deception? Lucifer, right? The devil, the fallen one, whatever you want to call him, right? So we have to sift through all that and get to the bottom of it, and we have to define what true power is and what true power, where it comes from, right? So we kind of have to ask ourselves, where does our earthly power come from? Okay, so it comes from the Father. When you have a relationship with him, it comes from him, Yahovah. You have to know his name, right? And so we have to ask ourselves, okay, so if we're tapped into that, what kind of power do we have? Now, we do have the power to kind of feebly get along in the world. We get up every day, we pour our cup of coffee, or some of us, crack open one of those Red Bull drinks or whatever we do, right? But that's the only thing that we can do under our power, is just kind of trudge along, right? And everything has a cost, right? And the crazy thing, when you get down to it, the cost of having a relationship with the Father is really not a cost at all. It's a gain. You gain eternal life. We might lose some things in this earth, right, in this fleshly life that we have, but we're gaining so much more in the after, right? Because the Bible even tells us that this life is just but a vapor. It's here and then it's gone, right? Anybody remember back to President Reagan? That was a long time ago, right? A vapor, gone. Now we have another president, right? And we have a bunch of presidents in between, right? But as humans, when we apply just our feeble way of thinking, we don't understand the concept of time, right? Which is funny, because I was actually having this conversation with Pastor Kenny it was Sunday, yeah. So we were supposed to have a men's work day, but we were short some people, so we didn't. No worries. I was already here, so I said, you know what? Abraham was with me, and I said, let's pop into Pastor Kenny's, just tell him we love him. So I texted him, told him to put some pants on, because we're going to come to his doorstep and hug him, and we did. But we had a long conversation. I think we talked for almost 2 hours. But one of the things that we talked about, and this kind of ties in with power, is time. Who created it? The Father created time, right? So he controls it. Now, and I'm kind of happy that we sung that song where we say, he takes what the enemy meant for evil and he turns it for good, right? Now, let me pose to you a different way of understanding that. Because with our earthly brains, we're walking around thinking like, oh, something bad just happened to me. And we're waiting for God to turn that around and make it good. And we miss the whole concept of what it is and why did it even happen to us. Because people will ask that question, God, why did that happen to me? Why did my car get hit in the parking lot? Why did my house burn down? And things like that, right? You think it surprised him? It did not surprise him. He knew us before we were even stitched together in our mother's womb. So the different way of thinking of that is not that we're tooling along and then, boom, something bad happens, and then we're just like, God, turn it around for something good, right? The concept is that something happened. He already knew it was going to happen. And years ago, maybe months ago, maybe weeks ago, who knows, he set things in motion so that whatever the outcome of that was would start to turn around and be positive. And he did that with his power to let you know that there is nothing that is out of his control. Nothing, absolutely nothing happens outside of God's control. So whenever you, and we're going to talk about this too, whenever you start getting that like, golly, man, my life is just spinning out of control. There's chaos, there's bills, and the gas is at $3.23 a gallon, and you think God was surprised that was going to happen? No. Do you think he set things in motion to correct that, or to put you in a position to where that's not really going to affect you that much, right? Or maybe he put you in that position so that it'll affect you so much that you'll actually turn around and be like, okay, God, I can't do it on my own power. I need to borrow some of yours, right? Okay, so that was kind of a sidebar. It's not in my notes, but that's okay. We're gonna keep going on this. But we constantly try to do things to guide our own path as humans. We try to use our own imaginary power, and we don't even have any. All we have is the breath of life that he gave us through Adam and in the Garden of Eden when he was created. That's literally all we have. We don't have any power to do anything else ourselves. Now, we do have we do have that little bit of power from the breath of life that he gave us, but it's only enough to screw up our lives. And I'm telling you that from experience. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. No, I'm not. I'm going to mess it up. That's what's going to happen. You know, I've experienced this all the way down to when I have to repair something at the house, and I start doing it, and because I filled myself with frustration and anger before I even did it, because, you know, someone left my hammer out in the yard, and I can't find my ladder, all the batteries for my drill are dead, you know, and then I did that instead of saying, dear Lord, please bless the work of my hands today and help me not hurt myself or smash my thumb with a hammer or whatever. And you know what? I messed it up. I made a bunch of bad cuts. I bent a bunch of nails because I was hitting them wrong, because I was angry or whatever happens there, right? But we only have enough power to screw up our life. We don't have enough power to guide our own path. We're nothing without him. We are his creation. He is the creator, right? So we got to tap into his power and ask him to borrow a little bit and use us so that we can go down this path that he set before us, right? When we talk about his power, we see first in Exodus, we see the Hebrews were trying to escape from Pharaoh. If anybody's not familiar with that story, get with me offline. I'll give you the short of it. Or we can talk long. It doesn't matter. It's today's all day for rest and recuperation and praising him. But we see that the Hebrews and the Israelites, they were trying to escape from Pharaoh, and they ended up at some point with their backs to the Red Sea. And it wasn't Moses who parted the Red Sea. Moses or Moshe in and of himself could do nothing. Nothing. Matter of fact, he even tried to get out of it when God first told him to go and do this mission. He said, hey, I'm going to use you to set my people free because they're being beat up by Pharaoh and the Egyptians, and they're using them, and they've been going on for a long time, and I want you to go do this. And Moshe was like, oh, no, can't you send somebody else? I can't even talk in front of people, right? And now here he is with his back to the Red Sea. Here comes Pharaoh, swords going everywhere, chariots ablazing, and all kinds of stuff, right? And then we see, and Moshe answered the people, stop being so fearful. Remain steady, and you will see how Adonai is going to save you. He will do it today. Today, you have seen the Egyptians, but you will never see them again. Adonai will do battle for you. Just calm yourselves down. He didn't say, I'm going to save us. He said the Father was going to do it. The Creator was going to do it, right? And even though the Egyptians were part of the creation, God took that, what the enemy meant for evil, and he turned it around for good, right? So who Who remembers where Moses came from? Where did he come from? He came from what was that? He came from the Nile. So he was kind of for lack of a better term, can we just say he was abandoned? Right? And I get it, there was some other ancillary things that were going on there, but he was abandoned. They sent him down the river, and they were like, "Ooh, good luck." Right? And Godspeed. Someone pulled him out of there, and he grew up with the Egyptians. And now he just said, okay, God's going to destroy him, and you'll never see him again. That's power. That's power. Taking something all the way back when he was just a little tiny baby and guiding that path all the way until he brought God's chosen people out of Egypt, out of bondage and slavery. And then God said, okay, you're done. Egyptians, you are done. And he closed the Red Sea on them. Now the Israelites, I know there's a lot of movies out there, and this is kind of one of my own pet peeves is when they make a movie about it. You see like the Israelites and their horses and their carts and everything going through the parted Red Sea, and there's mud, and then some wheel falls off of a cart, and then they're trying to put it back on. That's not how it went. They went across on dry land. God said, "Move out of the way, water," and he dried up the dirt so they could go across. I would almost even venture so far as to say they might have even picked up speed. Who knows? Who knows, right? Because that's true power. That's true power. And I know there's a lot of people that have come out and been like, "Oh, that didn't really happen." And then somebody goes in there and they find chariots and they find swords and they find, horse bridles and things down there in the bottom of the Red Sea. How do you explain that? How do you explain that? You can't. Even a lot of the scientists that I know that have set out to disprove the existence of God have ended up proving it. Because there's nothing else left. How do you explain the order of things, Making them eat their own words, like if the earth was an inch closer to the sun, we would all cook and die. Okay, why isn't it an inch closer? Anybody? Nobody can say anything, right? What if we were an inch further? We've been hit with asteroids and comets and things like that in the past. How come it didn't alter the trajectory of the earth? How come it stays in a perfect spot so that we get all the seasons, so that we can grow food and go through the winter and all this other stuff, right? That's true power. Okay? So Moshe didn't part the seas. It was Yah that parted the seas through Moshe's obedience. Now, he tried to not be obedient in the beginning, but then God corrected that, and he said, okay, I'll give you Aaron so you have a battle buddy to go with. Aaron can talk for you since you're super embarrassed, but you're going to do what I tell you to do because I told you to do it. And if you have learned anything now, this far in life, when God tells you to do something, you're going to do it. You might get out of it today. You are going to do it. It's going to happen, right? He has a purpose for your life. And here's the crazy paradox is he already knew you were going to say, well, in the beginning. And he said, okay, I know he's going to say, or she's going to say, well, but I'm going to make a time in the future from them saying that they have to do it. So it's better to just be obedient the first time when he says, hey, I want you to go, and I want you to go talk to these people, and you're going to prophesy, and you're going to tell them that I will destroy them if they continue to be disobedient. Well, God, I don't know. And then pretty soon, he's like, okay, I'm going to burn your house down. Now you can go talk to those people because your house was in the way before that. And so lightning comes and it, or whatever happens. And something will push you to that because he has a purpose for you and you will fulfill that purpose, right? And a lot of times we don't want to because it's uncomfortable or we just, usually on Sundays I do this or whatever happens to be. And then God said, you forgot who made Sunday, right? Okay. So the key element to the particular miracle that was Moses in the Red Sea was that he was connected to the creator of the universe by being obedient. And he allowed himself to be used by Jehovah so that the whiny Israelites could survive. Because remember, in the story, the Israelites were complaining the whole time. And that's something that I always have been, man, if I was in the wilderness and I was thirsty and I was like, dear Lord, it sure would be nice for a little bit of water right now. And then he made it come out of a rock. I would be hard-pressed to be disobedient after that. Really hard-pressed to be disobedient after that. And that's just the way we think about it kind of with our human minds, but when you look at it, it served a purpose. The Israelites, even though they were complaining, almost the whole Bible, they were complaining. He made manna come from the heavens and fall on the earth. Who else does that? Has any other God, lowercase g, ever done that for their people? No. It's usually they will smite you and strike you with lightning bolts and all this other stuff. And the God of war and all this other stuff that they talk about. It's just fear, right? That's where their power comes from, right? But it's not true power. True power is creation. Anyone can destroy. Anything, anybody can destroy. I can go out and start my truck on fire and just watch it burn. Can I create one from nothing? No, that's not true. True power is the creator. That's him, right? And so we have to tap into that. All right, so that was definitely a true display of effective power, and that had a great effect on the story itself. It had a great effect on the Israelites, even though they were whiny, because they would go on to do all these other things that are going to provide for us to learn from now that we're in the future, and hopefully some of us learn from it, right? But the Father had been showing his power through the whole story of the Israelites being delivered from the Egyptians, right? And, for time's sake, we won't go into all of it, but he had been showing his true power the entire time, right? And then we also see in Exodus in 14:31, it says, when Israel saw the mighty deed that Adonai had performed against the Egyptians, the people feared Adonai, and they believed in Adonai and his servant Moshe, right? So you have all these plagues come through. The Israelites are whiny and complaining. Oh my gosh. Then he saves them by parting a body of water, and they go across on dry land. Now they fear him. Now they respect him, right? But it had to get to that point so that he could show his power, right? Now we'll talk about the power of his authority, right? And in the book of Mark, we see that Yeshua didn't even have to try and display the power that he had over the demons that were inhabiting that weirdo that was living in the caves where they buried people and all that stuff, right? He was possessed by a bunch of demons, blah, blah, blah. My name is Legion, yada, yada, yada. But Yeshua didn't even do anything. He just was walking up there, right? And these demons saw the power that was on him because he is part of the Father. He was God in the flesh that came to save us, right? He didn't even do anything. He was just walking. And the demons were like, ooh, there's something. Ooh, we're in trouble now, boys. However many's in the legion. Y'all are all in trouble now, right? And so here it is in Mark in 5:8, it says, for Yeshua has already begun saying to him, unclean spirit, come out of this man. Yeshua asked him, what's your name? And he answers, my name is Legion, because there's so many of us. And he kept begging Yeshua not to send him out of that region. And there was a large herd of pigs feeding near the hill, and the unclean spirits begged him, send us to the pigs so that we can go into them. And Yeshua gave them permission. They came out, entered the pigs in the herd, numbering around 2,000, rushed towards the hillside into the lake, and then they drowned. So in that particular passage, Yeshua was only saying things. He was just saying, "You unclean spirits," and they already knew they're in trouble. They are in trouble, right? Now, could the unclean spirits do anything? No, they couldn't even leave the region. It wasn't until Yeshua gave them permission, right? Now that is true power, when the demons have to ask your permission to do anything. So why would you ever want to go on that side of the fence, right? So Yeshua had so much authoritative power over those unclean spirits, they were begging him not to cast them out of the region. Now, there's lots of sidebar conversations that we could talk about that, about regions and different things like that, where powers are and stuff like that. But they recognized that he had authority over them, and they couldn't do anything without his permission. They didn't even offer to jump out of the guy for free and go roam around, doing whatever they do, haunting trees or whatever they do, right? They had to ask his permission, and they said, ooh, there's some pigs. Can you throw us in the pigs, right? So there's a lot more stuff in that particular story to unwrap, but the key element of that is that even the unclean spirits recognized the power that Yeshua had in him and on him, and they had to ask permission to go into the unclean pigs and then go jump off of the bridge, right, or the hill and drown. So that is another example of true power, right? The power that only the Creator has. Okay, now, one of the other parts of the definition of power was physical power, right? Physical power. And this has a lot of implications even today. You'll see, if I say Arnold Schwarzenegger, everybody can imagine, that and stuff. But he had to work real hard to get where he was from where we knew him, winning, I think it was like 7 Mr. Olympias or whatever, right? He had to work hard at that. He had to put a lot of effort into that. Now, that's what he did on his own, right? And I don't know him personally. I don't know if he has a walk with the Lord or anything like that. But I'll tell you this: he wasn't very super young when he did all those things. It took him a long time to go to the gym and work out and eat right and go to the gym and take the right supplements and the right vitamins and everything like that so that he could win those contests, right? And he beat out a lot of people. Some of the people like Lou Ferrigno, way bigger than him. But, he had this little edge thing that he would do. But all those guys you see up there, all of them are trying to do something under their own power, right? Now, if you remember a couple minutes ago, I said power has its costs, right? I saw a pretty, we'll just call it eye-opening. I saw an eye-opening interview with Ronnie Coleman. Ronnie Coleman was another person that followed kind of in the footsteps of Arnold Schwarzenegger, wanted to be the biggest dude ever, won a bunch of contests, got a lot of trophies and everything. But the cost was, now that he's outside of that realm, he is very feeble. He's still kind of a big guy, but he has to walk around with a cane or a walker. He's got a lot of problems with his joints, arthritis, things are breaking, and he's not even that old, right? Thank you. He's not even that old, and that's the cost of doing things under your own power. That's the cost of doing things outside the realm of what his purpose is for your life. There's a cost. There always is a cost. And like I said, when you are operating within the power of what he wants you to do and what his purpose is for your life, the cost is actually a gain. It's a gain. It will eventually cost us our human life, but I'm ready for this body to be transformed. I am totally ready for that. every time I get up in the morning, it sounds like an old diesel trying to start up, you know. So, but anyway, so here we start seeing in the story of Samson, right? And I put a cool little picture there that I found on the interwebs where he's ripping apart the lion. It says in Judges, "For lo, thou shalt conceive and bear a son." Now this is his mom being talked to, right, by the angel, right? He says, "You'll bear a son, and no razor shall come on his head, for the child shall be a Nazarite unto God from the womb, and he shall begin to deliver Israel out of the hand of the Philistines." So here we have the Israelites, the Hebrews, again being enslaved, being ruled over, being abused, right? The power that Samson was tapped into, right? And the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, and he went down into Ashkelon and slew 30 men of them, and took their spoil, and gave change of garments unto them, which expounded the riddle. And his anger was kindled, and he went up to his father's house. Then we scoot up ahead a little bit more. He found a fresh donkey jawbone, took it in his hand, and with it he struck down 1,000 men. He was fulfilling his purpose. Why was he able to do that? Does anybody know anybody else, aside from Samson, who struck down 1,000 people with their own hands? Right? Even during the Holocaust, nobody did that. And they killed a lot of people in the Holocaust. But nobody did it with their bare hands. Nobody did. Right? And even though that was a very tragic thing, it's still a show of God's power, how the Israelites, the Jews, are still here. He wasn't able to exterminate them, right? Now that's God's power, right? We even go back and we say, the Israelites and the Hebrews and the tribes of it, they were all a little whiny, and then what did God tell them? He said, "I'm going to scatter you to the winds. You will lose your identity." It sounds terrible, right? You'd be like, "God, why would you do that? These are your people, your creation." He did it for a purpose. And the purpose was that we would be scattered to the wind, so that we wouldn't just hang out in the cool guy spot and be like, "Hey, you know about God?" "Yeah, I know about God." "Okay, cool." And nobody else ever knows about it. So he scattered us. He scattered the remnant out into the wind so that we could take the light out into the darkness when we are obedient. Right? Okay. Now, there's a couple of elements to this that I didn't put up on the screen, but I'll read to you. And this is in Judges 13:3. It says, "The angel of Adonai appeared to the woman and said to her, 'Listen, you are barren. You haven't had a child, but you will conceive and bear a son. Now, therefore,'" and I highly recommend whenever you see the word "therefore" in the Bible, find out what it's there for. Right? "Be careful not to drink any wine or other intoxicating liquor, and don't eat anything unclean." That was the buy-in, right? Can you do this? You will bear a son. Stay away from wine and don't eat unclean stuff, right? "For indeed you will conceive and bear a son." Now here's the covenant with Samson. And this is where he was connected to the Father, was through this little bit of a covenant. "No razor is to touch his head, because the child will be a Nazarite for God from the womb. Moreover, he will begin to rescue Israel from the power of the Philistines." Right now, was it because God didn't want Samson to have short hair? No. It was just a covenant. Much like when they talk about the covenant of circumcision, right? There's arguments, and people will argue these days and be like, "Well, if you haven't gone through the procedure, then yada, yada, yada." It's not a circumcision of the flesh, it's a circumcision of the heart. And it's not you sacrificing a piece of your own body to something. That's wrong. That's actually demonic and satanistic to sacrifice flesh like that. But what it is that you cutting off a piece of yourself and saying, "This is my covenant with you. I pinky swear," right? But it costs a little bit more, right? And that's the cost. The cost is have a relationship with him. The cost is dedicate yourself to him, right? And he will bless you beyond what you can even think of. And we'll talk about that again here in a second. because I just want to share that with you all, because I think it's important. But in the story of Samson, we see that there was that prerequisite, right? Don't drink wine and don't eat unclean things, and you'll have a son. And she was barren, so that would have been a complete miracle. Abraham is our miracle boy. He wasn't supposed to make it out of the womb, but I tell you, through a lot of fervent prayer and things like that, he's here now, just annoying as ever, right? And we love him. But, you know, and nothing there actually sounds that hard. Stay away from wine. Don't eat unclean stuff. Is that hard? It's not hard, right? We do it every day. I woke up this morning and I was like, I just want to eat some unclean stuff. I'm going to, and I didn't wake up and do that. I just woke up and had some eggs, right, and some coffee. Not in that order, because that's disgusting. But anyway, so when you look at what Jehovah asks of us, none of it is hard. Most of us are just too selfish to give up what brings us worldly pleasure and do what he asks of us. You know, we go back to this thing where whatever his purpose is for our life, we walk away from that and we go, I just want to buy that BMW or that Jaguar. So instead of putting my check in the offering plate, I'm going to put it over in the hand of the salesman at the car lot. What's he going to do with it? He's probably going to drink wine and eat unclean things, right? But you got that Jaguar, right? Now, God doesn't need your money. God doesn't need your things and your stuff. He created it. Don't forget that. He created it. Before that car was a Jaguar, it was molecules of iron and aluminum in the ground. So he created everything in the known universe, right? But what he wants is your obedience. That's something that he can't create because he gave us free will. We have to give him our obedience. And that's that circumcision of the heart. That's that circumcision of the self. You got to cut something off and be like, I'm giving it to you, God. I'm giving it to you. This is my obedience to you. Are we going to fall? Yeah. Are we going to stumble? Yeah. But if you remember in the last time I talked, he's in front of you, he's behind you, he's on the left, he's on the right, he's everywhere. He's in front of you going, you can do it, come on. And he's behind you going, go do it, come on. And then he's next to you going, I got you, let's go. Let's make this trip together, right? He's all around us. Okay. Now, us humans only have the power that he gave us through that he gives us through our obedience. When you don't walk in obedience to him, you don't have that power. Remember when I talked about the only power we do have is the power to screw it up. And we do it. And some of us do it fantastically. We mess up our lives. And then we got to go, okay, God, I need the Gorilla Glue again. I broke it. I got to put it back together, right? And he loans us a little bit, right? But we see examples of both the destructive and we also see the constructive, right? The constructive is Samson was strong enough to deliver the Israelites from the Philistines, even in that final moment after they had put his eyes out and chained him to the things, and then he pushed the things down and killed all the Philistines, right? But we also see that revocation of power when Samson was disobedient, and he said, okay, if you give me a haircut, I'll lose all my strength. Why did he tell her that? Because she was influencing him, right? But also because God wanted to show us that just like he gives you power and you're tapped in, he can also revoke it. We can turn away from it, which is what Samson did when he broke that covenant. He turned away. And so God said, I had good plans for you, but we'll come back. We'll circle back to that in the future, right? You're going to pay a price, though, and he did. He paid with his sight and with his strength. All right? So that's the physical power. Now, in the last part of the definition, and I'm kind of getting close to the finish up, my beautiful clock told me I was going long, but that's okay. We'll talk about regular power now, energy, right? The ability to get that energy, right? So what I would consider that and how I kind of define it, and you can disagree. It's a free country still. But this type of power is more like sustainment, right? We're already kind of going. We were born. We're walking down that path. Ooh, we fell. He picked us back up. We're getting going again. But that sustainment power. So when we're seeking him and we are obedient, he will sustain us with his power. And when Yeshua fasted for 40 days, the devil came up to him, remember, and he said, ooh, look at those rocks on the ground. You could turn them into bread. And he could have. He could turn them into a 5-course meal. He could have turned it into Golden Corral, right? But he didn't, because that's not what his purpose was. That's not what the purpose of that exercise was, right? It was to show that even though the devil will tempt you with things and stuff, you don't need it. And what did Yeshua tell him? Yeshua rebuked him, and he told him, all we need are the words that proceed out of the mouth of Yah. The same Yah that spoke the universe into existence, right? And we see it. But he answered, the Tanakh says that the man does not live on bread alone, but every word that comes from the mouth of Adonai. All we need to do is remain obedient, right? So when we talk about sustainment, right, a lot of us will burden ourselves, right? We will put things on ourselves and we'll start dragging and we'll start just feeling wiped out, right? A lot of times we'll feel, like I said up here, we'll feel torn down, used up, weary, at the end of our rope, right? Everybody's seen this picture. It's been floating around for a long time, right? Some people are like, oh, he's taking a knee because he's praying. You don't really know what's going on in that dude's head, but he's got a heavy load. A couple of us have probably done that a time or two. I can tell you, I have definitely had a 120-pound rucksack. For those that on the internet, if you don't know, it's a big backpack, and it weighs 120 pounds, along with my body armor, all my weapons and ammunition and everything. And we had to go 12 miles on foot on these bad boys, right? That's a long time. That's a lot of weight. If you think about it, pick up whoever's sitting next to you and try and carry him around just for a quarter mile. That's a long time, right? But we burden ourselves. I put this one up there for Abraham. Quadratic equations. The car's broken. I got to get it fixed. My job. They want me to get this, so I have to keep working. I got to pay taxes. That's a horror story all by itself, right? Got to pay the bills, right? Everybody's talking about the cost of gas and everything going up. All these burdens, we put them on ourselves, and we forget to tap into the power of the Creator. We forget about that all the time. And so we try to trudge through life under our own feeble power, and instead of listening to what he told us in his word, which is him, and he is the word, where he said in Matthew, he said, come to me, all of you who are struggling and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, because I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. So he said, take that burden off. Give it to me. I'll carry it. Take my burden. It's light and easy. And you might ask yourself, well, what is his burden? I mean, he's the Savior of the world. That's pretty big, right? But we go back and we talk about the disciples, and the disciples asked him, which one is the most important commandment? He said, love. Love. There's a couple more words in there where he says, love your God as you love yourself and love each other, right? But the main theme was love. How hard is it to love people? Some people try to make it really hard for us to love them. I get it. But we got to love them. And that speaks to me, whatever is bigger than volumes, I don't even know. My mom used to have those Encyclopedia Britannicas, but that speaks to me more because for a long time, I filled myself with hate. With hate, the opposite of love. I was letting the devil influence my life. Now, that was when I was I didn't have my beard, and I would do stuff and blow things up and go on deployments and things like that. But I was letting the devil influence my life and fill me up with the opposite of what he told us to do. And I'll tell you right now, that's a heavy burden. Hate will sink you to the bottom of the ocean and not even let you die, right? So we have to fill ourselves with love. We have to be in communion with him, in constant relationship, constant communication, so that he can fill us with his power, so that he can loan us a little bit, so that we can get through life, get through this next challenge, whatever it is, right? Okay, so, so 2 more things, and then I'll be done. Now I sound like Pastor Jeff. I just don't look like him. So in closing, if I have anything to share with you, it's don't go through life under your own power. You won't make it. You won't make it. You might not even get close to the finish line. Don't go through life under your own power, right? And understand that, yes, he does turn around things for the good, but that bad thing was already planned, and it was already going to happen. He already knew it. But he set in motion things for you on the other side. All you got to do is remain obedient and walk towards that, right? Okay, now, don't forget to tap into the power of the Creator each and every day and even overnight. Some of us only sleep like a couple hours a night. Tap into that power, right? You're going to need it. Now, when we talk about stuff like this, I always kind of come back to some of the misunderstandings that some people have. So in Psalms 37, David tells us, "Don't be upset by evildoers or envious of those who do wrong, for soon they will wither like grass and fade like the green in the fields. Trust Adonai and do good, settle in the land, and feed on faithfulness. Then you will delight yourself in Adonai, and he will give you your heart's desire." A lot of people hear that, and all they heard was, delight yourself in Adonai, heart's desire, right? Now, this is part of that tap into the power of the Creator. When you tap into the power of the Creator and you delight yourself in Adonai, meaning you have a relationship with him, you're following him, you're seeking him, you're everything I need from you, your heart's desires will change. They will change from the flesh to the spirit. And it will probably sound something like, instead of my heart's desire is to have a Cadillac CTS, to something like, my heart's desire is to be used by you, Father, today. Send somebody in my path today for me to share something with, or something for me to be closer to you, right? Now, always, always, always with caution, be careful what you ask for, because if you pray and ask him for patience, you're going to have some things that will test your patience. If you pray and ask him to fill you with love, he may send somebody that's really hard for you to love. Be careful what you ask for, but also understand that there's a plan behind everything. He already knew you were going to ask that, so he set things in motion. It's not like a game show. But anyway, so that is that's what I have for us today as far as a lesson goes. I know I went a little bit over, right? But that's okay. We're here all day. So, let me clean up my little slideshow here. But I just wanted to share that with you because there's a lot of people out there, especially, my family, my sister. I don't even know if she's watching yet, but sorry if I'm not going to say her name. But anyway, she called me, and we had a long conversation. Well, she had a long conversation, and I said, yep, okay, yep, she told me she feels tired and weary, and she feels like she's just got nothing left to give. And I said, well, what are you doing? And what she was doing was she was trying to take the entire spiritual burden of the family on her own. And you can't do that. This is part of God's plan. This is what he told us. He said, the man is supposed to be the spiritual leader of the household. He's responsible, the hunter-gatherer, the go-doer, the builder, things like that. And then the woman is the helpmate, right? She's supposed to make him burritos when he's tired and bring him some iced tea when he needs it and things like that, And then beyond that, she's supposed to be the one who nurtures the children and gives them love, because most of us guys are too hard to, cry in front of people or, whatever, open our hearts up and touchy-feely and all that stuff. So that's why God gave us the woman to do that, because we would screw that up big time. But anyway, it was just kind of another testament to tap into that power, right? Be obedient. Do the things that you're supposed to do, because when you're in sync with what his purpose is for your life, everything will fall into place. I'm not saying like bad stuff will never happen to you, because sometimes bad stuff needs to happen to you to make you grow a little bit further, make you walk a little bit faster towards them, make you get your blinders back on and be like, I don't need that Cadillac CTS because the oil changes cost $2,000. And I don't have that, right? I'll be okay with my old truck. It's good. But anyway, I just wanted to share that stuff with you guys, and I hope Pastor Jeff had a good time and laughed a little bit and everything. But are we ready to do the end part? Oh, yeah. Is it? Do I need to do this one? Was it the last slide? Oh. Okay. Because I know there's... Here we go. Okay, so we'll do the after scripture, and then we'll have the children come up. I think there's still a couple of them out there, right? All right. So, what's that? Yeah, we'll stand up. And then, man, I had like 5 more stories, but I ran out of time. Okay. All right. Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher natan lanu Torah emet ve'yacheh olam natah b'tokenu Baruch atah Adonai noten haTorah. Blessed are you, Lord our God, King of the universe, who gave us the Torah of truth and set everlasting life in our midst. And blessed art thou, O Lord, the giver of the Torah. All right. And I'll just move this over here off to the side. All right, children, come up here. And if I could get another man or two to come on up, just help us hold the talit. There we go. I can even hold this. Yeah. Dave, you want to grab that? Or one of them? Yeah, there we go. Power team. All right. All right. Hey, come a little bit further. Yeah, there you go. Okay. All right, Father, we come to you today, and we just give you thanks, and we give you praise for each and every one of these little children under the prayer shawl, Lord. We just ask that you guard them, Father. We ask that you light that fire in their hearts, Father, that they would seek you each and every day, Father, that there would constantly be the Holy Spirit in the back of their minds just whispering, find you, find you, find you, right? We thank you and we praise you, and we just ask for hedge of protection about them each and every day, Father. Just extinguish any and all fiery darts that the world is trying to fire at them, whether it's at school or in the schoolyard or on the bus going to school or wherever it is, Father. Just protect their hearts, protect their minds, and give them that will to find you. And we praise you and we thank you in Yeshua's holy name. Amen.
Yevarekecha Yahovah Ve'yishmerecha Yahovah פניו אליך וישם לך
Jehovah, he who exists, kneel before you, presenting gifts, and will guard you with a hedge of protection. Jehovah, he who exists, will illuminate the wholeness of his being toward you, bringing order, and he will provide you with love, sustenance, and friendship. And Jehovah, he who exists, will lift up the wholeness of his being and look upon you, and he will set in place all you need to be whole and complete. May Jehovah grant all the desires of our hearts, fulfill all of our purposes and all of our petitions. May Jehovah hear from heaven, quickly answer all of our requests, and save us in the day of adversity. And in the name of Yeshua the Messiah, defend us from our enemies, from poverty and from bondage. Shabbat Shalom.